Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Saturday, January 17th. This is episode 92 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Make sure to please like and subscribe here on YouTube. And we have made it to Divisional weekend. 2 games today, Bills, Broncos starting it off, and then the 49ers, Seahawks later on, and then 2 more games tomorrow. Texans, Patriots in the early window, and then the Bears, Rams capping off the weekend. Always say it, divisional round is the best weekend of the NFL calendar. Although last weekend will be tough to top the rest of these playoffs with how many good games we got last weekend, specifically over Saturday and Sunday. The Monday night game was ugly. But this weekend, 2 games today, 2 games tomorrow. You still get both days with games, and you tend to get your better matchups in this one before championship weekend next week, where you get the 2 games on Sunday. So lots to look forward to, lots to dive in to today on the podcast. DiMari, another week closer to the Super Bowl and a big week here in the NFL divisional weekend. Good slate of games coming up. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, this is a week as a football fan. You love it. You got 2 great, well, 4 great matchups, like you mentioned. Obviously, the national championship being on Monday as well to wrap up the college season. So, between the 4 games we have NFL, this is also the last, I guess, fuller slate of football because when it comes down to the next few weeks, we have one game, and Super Bowl. So, season's almost at the end, but gotta love it. You gotta love playoff time. But it's been a lot of big news today, well, this week. So let's get into it.
Yeah, definitely. Lots to dive into. We'll get into the 4 games and we'll preview those games coming up here in a little bit. But before we get to that, we got to break down some offseason stuff that is taking place around the league. While there still are, 8 teams playing, there's plenty of other teams that have hit the offseason. Some have already been in the offseason now for a couple of weeks. And you had all these coach openings. You've had a lot of these vacancies, a lot of interviews, and a lot of rumors around that the last couple of weeks. And now officially this week, I shouldn't say officially yet, but all signs pointing towards some big changes in the NFC or AFC North. First of all, we'll get to Tomlin, but we'll start here with John Harbaugh and the expected outcome here. While it's been a little bit, there's been a little bit of a holdup in terms of reporting structure and things like that. It's expected that John Harbaugh and the New York Giants are going to come to an agreement. That's been the case for the last couple of days now. And the Baltimore Ravens coach for 18 seasons, who won 180 games, had 13 playoff wins, Super Bowl winning coach, now goes to the New York Giants. So before we dive into all of that, just what are your initial thoughts on the John Harbaugh news this week?
It goes to show you business is business, and if you don't get the job done, they will find somebody else to do it. Even though Ravens head coaching job has not been filled yet, but I mean, you kind of hit it right on the head. This is a guy that who's been in the league. He has won. He's won divisions. He's been to the Super Bowl. He has done everything you want from a coach, and they found a way to, pack him up and get rid of him because he wasn't getting the job done. So if you're a Giants fan, I mean, you gotta love this. This is a guy, he didn't forget how to coach football games. Just unfortunately, the time in Baltimore didn't work out how I wanted to towards the end of the year. But if you're a Ravens fan, this kind of sucks. This blows to out. You're like, who are we going to find to replace this guy? You're not going to find a John Harbaugh easily just out there, in the coaching market. But I mean, like you mentioned, details and everything's not really fully done with Harbaugh yet to the Giants, even they are kind of seem like they are gonna wrap it up pretty much soon. But it seems like they got their guy, and I think it's a great chance for him to prove like Unk still got it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing official yet in terms of the contract, but reports say that it's upwards to 20 million or so per season on this 5-year contract, which would be pretty similar to what Andy Reid and Sean Payton are getting in that 20 million range. Some are expecting about 100 million for Harbaugh over potentially 5 seasons or so. So it's a massive contract, and rightfully so for a coach of his caliber. He's going to warrant a lot of money. He's going to get a lot of money. And I 100% am with you. I love this hire for the New York Giants. We have crushed the Giants a lot these last couple of years, and rightfully so, right? We talk so much about how they've fallen from what they used to be. This was once a proud franchise. They have fallen so far from that, especially from a coaching perspective. Really, since Tom Coughlin, it's been a disaster. You had the 2 years of Ben McAdoo where he didn't even last the full 2 seasons. He was fired at the end of the 2017 season. Steve Spagnuolo was the interim. And then you bring in Pat Shurmur for 2 seasons. That was a disaster. He wins 9 games in 2 years. And then you bring in Joe Judge for 2 years. And then you bring in Dable, who got fired in year 4. And Mike Kafka wasn't any good either. And, since this team had won their last Super Bowl in 2011, during the 2011 season, they've only had 1 playoff win since that point. And that's really embarrassing for a team that was once proud, once near the top of the league, contending every single year in this market. They have been, them and the Jets, we joke about it, but it's the truth. Them and the Jets have been kind of the 2 laughing stocks in the NFL for a while now. The Giants, at some seasons, they've even been worse than the Jets. I mean, just look at what the Giants have done these last 3 years. They've won 13 games, 6 wins in 23, 3 wins in 24, and 4 wins this season. So they have been an embarrassment, and they have been kind of turned into a little bit of the joke of the league. Pretty much in the basement every year, the NFC East. And now this finally feels like there's direction here. They finally get a big time voice, a big time hire in this building, as opposed to what they've been going through with these last couple of coaching hires. And I guess just how do you feel he fits with the Giants? Like, in terms of what he brings to the table, what the Giants need. I know you mentioned you like it, but what else just about this move where, they've been bad for a while, and just what Harbaugh brings?
They just need somebody that knows how to win. I mean, you went through the list of head coaches. They don't know how to win. And it's not shots at the guys, it's not shot at the coaches, but it's clear as day. I mean, none of them are still here at the moment, so that says everything you need to know. The only thing from Harbaugh and his will to win, what the Giants don't have, is talent on the offensive side. Defensively, very good. The offensive side, they don't have enough talent. And I mean, trying to give Harbaugh a little grace here, but if you can't win with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, you're not winning with Cam Scatterboo and Jackson Dart. So they're going to need to bring some guys in with a lot of talent and basically let him pick his roster. I think that's kind of the best bet to go forward. Year 1 and year 2 is going to be quite of more than a rebuild. It's almost like they're building completely from the ground all the way up. You got your quarterback, you got a receiver, but you need more around him. So I think once Harbaugh kind of gets in there, year 1, kind of test some things out, going into year 2, once he can kind of hand pick his guys and build things up, I think they can be very competitive in that division. But as of now, I mean, if expectations are high going into year 1, I think you completely lost your mind. But this is a guy that I think can completely flip the script and get them competitive once again.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is can be a quick turnaround for them, and that's what you're bringing Harbaugh in to do, is quick turnaround, right? This is a guy that's in his career. I broke down some of the 6 divisional titles, Super Bowl, 12 playoff appearances in his 18 seasons, which is 66%. And he's also had 11 double-digit win seasons, which is 61%. It's crazy to think over the last 18 years he's done all that. And then if you actually just compare that to what the Giants have done just as a franchise, Harbaugh's kind of out-accomplished them, if that's even a word or a phrase. Same thing with the Jets. He's accomplished more than a lot of other teams have. But this is the point I want to make, and because I've seen a lot of this too. Oh, well, he hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2012, right? Oh, he wasn't able to get the job done with the Ravens. And I get that. But and the whole Super Bowl argument, to me, the Giants are in a state right now where they just need a coach that could just get them back on track, like you said. Get them back to just being competitive. Just being baseline competitive, not getting embarrassed every single season. And that's to me what Harbaugh can bring day one is just them being competitive and just being a competent, well-run organization, right? You don't last year you had Abdul Carter showing up late to meetings. You had all this off the field nonsense that was going on under Brian Dable, kind of a lack of accountability. And you hope Harbaugh can come in and change that. But the Giants have been so bad that if they just go 9-8, 10-7 and make the playoffs and don't maybe ever win a Super Bowl with Harbaugh, but they just kind of get back on track, that's sometimes what you need. We've seen that a lot with these franchises where they get a coach that can just get them back on track, have a couple winning seasons, make the playoffs. Maybe he won't be able to ever get them over the top, but then you potentially go out and hire your young, innovative offensive mind or whatever. We've talked about this a lot when talking about, like a Tomlin or one of these coaches where chances are Harbaugh probably doesn't win a Super Bowl with the Giants, but I think there's a very good chance he makes the playoffs more times than he doesn't in his 5 years, let's say, on that contract. And then maybe he leaves there and the Giants hire the next young guy and he's the one that's able to get them over the top. Just Harbaugh kind of just the one setting the culture, getting them back on track. It's always a good example in this town is the Knicks and Thibodeau. He was never able to get them over the top. And I think if you continue to run it back with Thibodeau, you probably were never going to be able to get over the top just with the way he coached and his style and how many minutes guys are playing during the year. So they moved on and they brought in Mike Brown, who they feel is the guy. That's kind of how I view Harbaugh potentially. Get them back on track, and then maybe you are allowed to go out and get that next guy. So I think it's a good hire. I'm very curious, though, how much say he has because you still have Joe Shane in the building, and I'm curious on what his role is, how much say Harbaugh has, what's the dynamic between those two, because the whole keeping the general manager and hiring a new coach is always a bit of a question mark. But what do you – I know you said you don't expect them to make the playoffs, but do you believe there is a possibility where the Giants could be this year's Bears next season, or do you think that's too far-fetched, if that's the way to put it?
Yeah, I think it's too much of a reach. And I could be surprised, but I guess kind of to compare them to the Bears, you look at the talent on the Bears roster. The Bears was very talented last year. They drafted a few guys, signed a few free agents, and they finally, put all the pieces together. Puzzle is semi-complete. The Giants don't have that talent. Like you take a step back and you look at that roster, it's Malik Neighbors, it's Jackson Dart on the offensive side. And that's kind of it. I like Cam Scatterbo, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's a guy or a running back that's going to be your bell cow that's going to win you a Super Bowl, if we're being so honest. So I just think unless they completely pile in a bunch of free agents, they do have a top 5 pick. So maybe you go draft a guy. We're going to throw out Jordan Tyson. Maybe you go draft a Jordan Tyson that adds to your wide receiver room. You go draft a free agent, or I'm sorry, you go sign a free agent running back, even though the market isn't the best, but throw out a hypothetical. Let's say Javonte Williams doesn't re-sign in Dallas. You get you a bona fide solid running back, and Jackson Dart take care of himself, then maybe. But as of now, I mean, if you just look at the talent difference between Chicago and the Giants or the Lions when they decided to figure it out, or even Carolina, who I still think needs more talents. The Giants are nowhere on the
Yeah.
level of those other teams, and they got a lot of work to get there.
Yeah. The 5th pick is going to be big, and that was the whole thing with the whole first overall pick. If they didn't blow it, was go out and trade that for a haul of picks and get even more. And especially now more than ever with the way this quarterback class has gone, there would be a lot of teams calling up because it's really Fernando Mendoza, and that's it. Because Dante Moore said,
All right. I'm back.
yeah, all I recommend to Dante Moore is if you're not there when we're 3-14 this year, don't be there when we're 3-14 next year. Okay, that's all I will say to Dante Moore. All right. Quick thoughts on the Ravens side of this, because there is the Baltimore angle here. They move on from Harbaugh, of course. 8-9 disappointing season. It's funny because how bad the Giants have been, they would take an 8-9 season. Like if the Giants went 8-9 in year one with Harbaugh, I think they would actually be pretty optimistic for the future. Continue to build the roster. Jackson Dart continues to get better. But different world in Baltimore, different expectations, different results to the season. Come to find out, the Tyler Loop kick really meant nothing because Tomlin ends up leaving anyway. So we'll get to that. But what's you feels next for Baltimore? It sounds like Kevin Stefanski, and we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, next week as more moves happen. Sounds like Stefanski's probably going to the Falcons. The Ravens, I know, have interviewed Saleh. They've interviewed, of course, Stefanski, I know. Chris Shula, they've interviewed. What do you feel is the best course of action post Harbaugh era? And I guess more so, what do you feel? Where do you feel the Ravens are headed? Do you feel that this move is going to benefit them, where they're going to be right back on track next year, or is the post Harbaugh era going to be ugly? Because there is a lot of Ravens fans that wish this move was made a couple years ago and they never let Mike McDonald leave. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's over. I think it's over. I think you rebuild. I know this sounds crazy. We're talking about an MVP quarterback here. I think you trade Lamar Jackson during the draft, see if you can load up on some picks. I just don't see this team bouncing back, and that just shows how much of an impact John Harbaugh has when his fingerprint is implemented on this team. I mean, you look at Baltimore, they've been competitive. You look at division, we talk about the division all the time. The division is horrible. So, I mean, you probably win 9 games, 10 games, and you're in. But I just don't see if Harbaugh couldn't get it done. I just don't see a guy, and I could be wrong. I just don't see a guy that steps in and takes over this organization and puts his fingerprint on this team, and they still run the same as they ran with John Harbaugh. I mean, if we're being honest, with him there, and you look at Baltimore and just Lamar Jackson's time, they've been there. We're talking about Mark Andrews drops. We're talking about fumbles. We're talking about injuries. So John Harbaugh has done everything that he could possibly do to get this team to that next step, and they just haven't been able to do it because they always seem to run into some type of barrier. I don't see I don't who you can bring in unless it's Mike Tomlin, if we're being honest, because that's probably the only other coach available that I would say is deemed better than John Harbaugh. But I mean, no one else is stepping in to completely take over this team and get right back on track. I think you got to blow it up.
Yeah, I I would say Harbaugh or Tomlin or even Stefanski. Um, I don't think they're going to tie like a Mike McDaniel doesn't move the needle. Jim Schwartz, who's interviewed now a little bit with the Browns too. It could be. It feels like it's. I mean, it's obviously new era. It's going to be very strange what happens next season. Next season is going to be very weird. You know, whether or not, let's say they don't trade Lamar next season, if they go 7 or 8 wins, you kind of have to at that point,
Yeah.
especially with that whoever the new coach is. At that point, you kind of have to look and say, all right, let's really shake things up. Unless if they find their Mike McDonald, who they had and they didn't hire him, or but they obviously didn't feel the need to move on from Harbaugh at that point. All I will say is, and I always say this to all the fans to the Ravens fans and the Steelers fans that crap on Harbaugh and Tomlin, the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. But it's very interesting times with the Ravens. You have a MVP quarterback in his prime. You have a really good running back. You have a defense that struggled a bit this year, but there is talent on the defense. Do they go with the young defensive coordinator? It'll be interesting. But yeah, it's the NFC North I keep saying the NFC North. The AFC North is going to be crazy different. One coach still remains, and that's Zach Taylor. And there's a good chance Zach Taylor's probably gone next year.
It's so
Stefanski,
insane that you would have
Harbaugh,
told me
Tomlin out.
Zach Taylor is the last standing coach in that division with everything going on.
Here's the thing, though. Just sitting here, let's say the Ravens are a question mark. I don't think the Steelers. I think the Steelers are going to be terrible next year, and we could dive into. We'll dive into them next. I think they're going to be awful next season.
Yeah.
Browns are terrible. The Bengals can't stop a nosebleed. Who the heck is winning that division next season?
Probably still Cincy. I mean, the only team with a solid quarterback situation. I mean, again, the defense has to get better. There's
Yeah.
no possible way, unless Matt Eberflus is coaching Cincinnati next year, that the defense gets worse than what it is. You still got Burrow. You got a lot of talent. Got to be Cincy. If they don't win it
Yeah.
next year, though, Zach Taylor should not ever coach Cincinnati ever again. It is no excuse to not win that division next year.
Yeah. They've got to win a division. Joe Burrow is they're the most talented roster in terms of offense in that division. If they just had, and we talked about this all offseason last year, if they could just be average on defense,
Yeah.
you're talking about a 10-win football team. Average. Don't need to be elite. Don't need to be best in the NFL. Just be average. Can you be the 16th best defense right in the middle? Or even 18th, even 19th, maybe slightly below average. But being, in the 29th, 30th, 31st ranked defense every single year, 32nd, dead last, like they're terrible. But yeah, it feels like it's their division. And if it isn't, then yeah, Zach Taylor's probably gone. And this whole Zach Taylor, Harbaugh, Tomlin, Stefanski era is completely over then. You're looking at 4 new coaches at the time this time next year. But anyway, speaking of the AFC North, speaking of the makeover in the AFC North, Mike Tomlin stepping away from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he doesn't get fired. He steps away. There wasn't a mutually agreeing to part ways. He's been there for 19 years, 2007, when Mike Tomlin took over. Never had a losing season, 193 career wins, 8 wins in the playoffs, the 1 Super Bowl in 2008. Tomlin is out. It's finally over in Pittsburgh. It feels like every year for the last 3, 4 years, 5 years. Honestly, it's been a while that we've gone through, really ever since this playoff drought started, or this playoff win drought, which they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. So they lost in 2017, and they missed the playoffs in 18 and 19. So really since it's been a while where you've heard every single year, is this it for Tomlin? Is this it for Tomlin? 2 years ago, his contract was up, then they extended him. The Mike Tomlin era is over. What are your thoughts?
I'm shocked. I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked again. I mean, the whole stepping away kind of shows me, or at least tells me, Pittsburgh wasn't done with him, but he was over it. And I mean,
Yeah.
rightfully so. I understand it. One, if his time in Pittsburgh was coming to an end, this is the way to go out. Let me step away before I get fired and kind of tarnish my legacy. So I understand it, but at the same time, I think he was just over it. I mean, you've talked about it. They have not won a playoff game since 2016. They haven't even made it past the wild card since 2020, which, if you remember that 2020 year, they were 11 and 0 and completely fizzled out and lost in the wild card to Cleveland. So their best shot at winning was a wild card elimination. And they just haven't been able to get it together. And we've talked about this team so much this season, last season. This seems like somewhere you don't go to win. The roster is always terrible. You had a 45-year-old quarterback. There's no talent on the offense. The offensive coordinators are awful. It just, Pittsburgh, I feel like, is just a place where, as a coach, you kind of go, you get a few years of experience, and then you leave to hopefully find something better. But I don't blame Mike Tomlin. I mean, I understand it. In 19 years, you've only got it done once. You've been there twice. And it kind of seems like, if we're being honest, he saw no light at the end of the tunnel. And
Yep.
in order to avoid things getting uglier moving forward, he decided to just step away. And I respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think that was always going to be the way with Tomlin. It was either going to be some mutually agreeing to part ways or him stepping away. I don't know if the Rooneys and the Steelers organization, from just like a sense of pride standpoint, would respect, would move on and just blatantly fire him. But you're spot on. I think he just wanted to move on. And you hear some of the reports that it's been this way the last couple of years. Over the last 3 years, he's had kind of a feeling of wanting to move on. The fan base is kind of turned on him. Not kind of. They have turned on him a lot in Pittsburgh. The media's kind of turned on him. Like just the whole outside world, there's been a lot of move on from Tomlin, more so from the fan base wanting a fresh start and kind of getting out of this stuck in mediocrity from a Steelers standpoint where, they win 9 or 10 games every single year and they're not able to get it done in the playoffs. I still think Tomlin has years left as a coach, and I personally think that he's going to do what Sean Payton did a couple years ago, and that is take a year off. I guess I'll ask you, do you think he's coming back, or do you think this is the end of Mike Tomlin?
Oh, he's definitely coming back. I agree. He's kind of on that Sean Payton, Urban Meyer kind of art. He's gonna be back.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to do what Sean Payton did. I think it's going to be a year off. Maybe does TV, maybe doesn't. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll see. But in the event of Payton, if he wants to really replicate Payton, then he'd do the TV. And then next season, he would, take a job. And the Steelers still own his rights. So technically, you'd have to trade him. Now, his contract is up next year, so I'm not too sure how that all factors into it. But the Ravens, or not the Ravens, the Broncos had a trade for Payton. So team would trade for Tomlin next season, and you go from there. To be honest, where I stand with Tomlin. I think he's a lot better than people make him out to be. I'd take Tomlin in a heartbeat. Are the Steelers better off?
No, no, absolutely not.
Because
It this
here's the notion around the Steelers fan base. Now they're going to be able to tank and completely reset and completely rebuild. Hopefully get your franchise quarterback. And I understand. I mean, next year, honestly, the Steelers next year might be the most obvious tanking season of all time for Pittsburgh because I don't even know who their coach is going to be. Who the heck is going to be their coach this year? They got nobody. Who's going to be their quarterback? They've got no talent. I mean, it's kind of the same story, but the offense is going to be terrible. Rodgers isn't coming back. Rodgers was there to play for Tomlin, so he's not going to come back. They honestly, they might just, this might be the most obvious tank ever and try and get your quarterback in 2027 and have that head coach work with him. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. This is not going to be a very good football team next year, and it's such a they're in such a weird spot, and not the weird spot that we talk about almost every week where they're not good enough, they're not bad enough for a pick type of thing. But it's you got a coach who's been there forever. He has been great. He hasn't had a losing season. I don't think people understand how insane that is to not have a losing season as a
Yeah.
head coach, even though all those don't immediately equal a playoff berth, but to just win in the regular season is big because that's the first step. Win enough games, win your division. That is how you get to the playoffs. Let's start there. So if you think someone is just going to hop in here and right off the bat pick up the same level of success, winning, 10, 11, maybe even 12 games, that's insane. And we talked about it now going back to things that we've repeated. The roster has been awful. This guy's not had a good roster since 2020, if we're being honest. The
Yeah.
last few years with, Big
Big
Ben
Ben.
and Le'Veon Bell and those guys, like this roster has been awful every single year. And you want the guy to step in and put on a cape and lead this team to divisional and conference championship games. That's not going to happen. I mean, if we're being honest, what I think people from Pittsburgh, just a football fan in general, take a step back, look at how talented Cincinnati's rosters have been, look at how talented the Ravens rosters have been, and Mike Tomlin has led Pittsburgh all to the same spot every single year. That's
Yeah.
to the playoffs with a huge talent deficit between those three teams. So I mean, to move on, I kind of get it. You're not winning in the playoffs. Who cares about the regular season? I understand that. But it's getting there, which is a huge thing. And I think the next guy that they get, it's going to take probably 2 years for them to get there because you hit it spot on. No quarterback, no talent, no offense. no nothing but terrible towels and renegade. Like they have nothing going for
Yeah.
their organization right now. It's gonna be tough.
Even the Renegade is, I don't think they played it some of these weeks. They've been booing it, whatever.
It's been bad.
Yeah, it hasn't been good. I agree. I think, look, Tomlin brought a sense of stability. It was consistent every single year. You want to make fun and say, oh, 9-8, 9-8. They never had a losing season. And this whole notion of he hasn't had a quarterback. I mean, he's making the playoffs with Mason Rudolph and old Big Ben and Kenny Pickett. I mean, these no good quarterbacks. And then they go out and sign Rodgers, which was better than what they've had. But Rodgers is cooked. Okay, he's completely cooked. That's something I just want to say for a second. People got to stop with this. Rodgers is done. I continue to hear, oh, Rodgers could still play. There's still so many Jet fans out there. They're like, oh, Rodgers still got it. He could still play. He's not any good. Rodgers is not going to get your team to a Super Bowl. He's not good enough to win a playoff game. He's cooked. He's shot. Like, come on. Like, can we stop with the Rodgers stuff? I don't even count Rodgers as a good quarterback that Tomlin had this year because the offense still sucked. And it was still the same garbage on offense. Same garbage. The highlight from the offense was DK Metcalf punching a Lions fan. Let's be honest. It's probably the highlight. So you can tank and all that stuff and blow it up and lose a ton of games next year and hope you find your next quarterback. But I don't know. It's a risky path to take, and it doesn't always work. And from Pittsburgh's standpoint,
Just
I've just never seen a fan base so quick to move on from a coach that is never had a losing season, and he hasn't had a quarterback in the last couple of years. And it's tough to find good quarterback play when you're always in the playoffs. But usually a playoff team's not looking for good quarterback play. But either way, what was? Sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying?
No, just another part of it too. People think, people kind of forget in the NFL, a guy is going to be loyal to an extent. So they can sit here and tank for 2 to 3 years. That doesn't mean you're going to have TJ Watt. That doesn't mean you're going to have Joey Porter Jr. Like those guys that want to win and have been there for a set amount of time are going to want to leave. So you can
Yeah.
sit here and tank all these years and think you're going to grab a quarterback in 27, 28. Oh, we're going to wait around for a new coach. Well, guess what? You do that and then your stars are gone. So
Yeah.
they're in a terrible spot right now. Like this is probably what Pittsburgh fans are seeing as okay, this was finally the cherry on top. Now all the pieces come together. This is actually about to be a tremendous downfall because it's only going to get ugly from here unless they find a guy to step in and start to win instantly.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. And I think wherever Tomlin goes next, he'll have success similar to Harbaugh. I'd actually argue Tomlin would have more success than Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I've always kind of preferred Tomlin over Harbaugh, but two really good coaches out, two coaches that have had a long rivalry, no longer there in the AFC North. So big changes there. And I present to you the Jets' path in 2026. Okay. It's the tank for Tomlin, march for Arch 2026 season.
So here, I was going to ask this question.
Here we come. I could smell the 3 wins.
I was going to ask this question, but you already answered it when you said you would take Harbaugh. I mean, you would take Tomlin in a heartbeat. But the question was, anyway, so do we think Aaron Glenn has one more year? Tomlin's the head coach going into 27 for the Jets.
That's my hope, is that Tomlin becomes the coach. And look, I want the Jets to be good, but I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to be terrible again next year because I think Glenn's awful. And no more Dante Moore. They're probably going to take Simpson or Chambliss in the second round. And you're going to have a developmental quarterback, and you're going to have some quarterback room with Mariota, Tanner McKee, Mariota, Minshew, something like that. They're not going to win many games this year. They're probably going to win 5 games at the most. 3 first-round picks next year. You hire Tomlin, you get Arch Manning, and you call it a day.
That's the script, y'all. We got the plan.
Yes.
All banking on Tomlin.
Yes. You think Tomlin would take this job? I guess. Yeah. I mean, look, the Jets' job next year could be very appealing because You have 3 first-round picks. If they, let's just say, in a hypothetical world, get the first overall pick, and they have 3 first-round picks, and their choice of whatever quarterback they want, that could be a very appealing job.
Well, and I'm going to throw this in. Maybe this is recency bias. I don't know. I really like Trinidad Chambliss. I mean,
Yeah,
for
I like him
to a
more than
second and
Simpson.
third round, 100%. I mean,
I
for a
think Simpson's
second,
terrible.
I don't think he's that good. It
Yeah,
showed in the playoff. It showed kind of throughout the season. But
yeah.
for the sake of Chambliss, and again, this could just be all hype and whatnot. But for a guy to not even start the year off as a starter, step in and instantly turn that team into a natty contender, I mean,
Mhm,
I think he's going to be good in the league. He has shown he's versatile. That's one thing. He's
yep,
very athletic. He's mobile. Some of the throws he just was making that Georgia game and the Miami game, you're just like, oh my goodness,
mhm,
this kid can ball. So, the Jets can kind of go out on a limb and get him, second, third round. Heck, why not try it out? I mean, can't be worse than what you got right now.
yeah,
Yeah, I say you give it a shot. So, just all in all, with that, where if he does turn out to be your quarterback, luckily you find a guy in the second round, then going to next year, you still got a bunch of first round picks with a guy that you finally know can be the franchise guy. That's an attractive spot, 100%.
yeah. I agree. I mean, I think build out the rest of your roster with pick 1 and 16, and then the pick 33, which I think is not a think. It's essentially an extension of the first round, your
First
first
round.
pick of day
Hmm.
2. And that's where you could find your Simpson or your Shambliss. Kind of mirror a little bit what the Giants did with Jackson Dart, where they traded back into the first. I don't necessarily know if you'll have to trade back into the first for Shambliss, but instead wait to the early second and take him and have him sit. And when he's ready to play him. And but that's just what I'm concerned about the whole timeline of all this is Aaron Glenn's got to win this year. If they start out 0 and 4, 0 and 5, 1 and 4, whatever, there's a very good chance where he's going to do what Dable did and start the rookie to try and save his job.
Yeah.
Because that's what Dable did. He started Dart to try and save his job. And while Dart is good, it didn't work for Dable. And that's my worry is you start the rookie, you rush him along. All offseason you say he's going to sit, he's going to play, week 10, week 12, we're aiming. He's going to sit, wait, learn. We've got 2 veterans in front of him, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, 4 weeks in, you're rushing him out there and then you ruin him because he's not ready. So that's the very risky game they play. And it's the Jets, so they'll probably screw it up. Anyway, let's get into these slate of games. One day, both of our teams will be playing in divisional round weekend again. Hopefully, maybe not.
2027.
Yeah, maybe next year for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I don't think the Jets are getting there at all next year. No chance. Maybe the year after. I think the next time I'll have hope as a Jet fan is 2027. So this time next year, I hopefully I have hope as a Jet fan this time next year that they can hire the right coach and draft the franchise quarterback. In terms of this weekend, we'll go through the 4 games here. We'll start in Denver and Buffalo. This is a big one. Denver 1.5-point favorites. Buffalo going into Mile High. Amazing defense from Denver. Good offense from the Bills. Okay offense from the Broncos. Not a great defense from the Bills. The big matchup is going to be this Bills offense between this Broncos defense and really whether or not you trust Bo Nix to get it done. So just what are your overall thoughts on this one?
This is probably the most give me game, of the slate. Can kind of go either way. And
Mhm.
we talked about it off air. I kind of don't know which way to go with this one. You hit it on the head perfectly. Very good Broncos defense. Offense struggles. Vice and flip the script for the Bills where the offense is good, the defense is okay. So today something has to give. But um we talked about this last week. This is Josh Allen's time. Josh Allen, in a time where you have no Lamar, no Mahomes, no Burrow, you got to get the job done. Even though, yes, it's on the road. And then for Denver, I mean, this is what you traded those picks for Sean Payton for. This is what Bo Nix was drafted to Denver to do is win these games. So the Broncos can't lose today, but it's gonna be a close one. I really, as of now, I don't know which way to go. I'll probably make a decision after you give your side of it. But this, like you said earlier, like you said off air, this is probably going to be potentially the best game of
Yeah.
the slate this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be the best game of the slate, and it's the first game on tap. From a Bills perspective, last week they had a lot of success getting the ball to Khalil Shakir. Still an offense that obviously lacks much talent from a receiving standpoint. Brandon Cooks had that big play late in the game with the 36-yard catch where Jacksonville's defense kind of broke down. I guess, what do the Bills need to do offensively? There isn't much there. James Cook last week, from a run game perspective, they struggled. This feels like a game where you got to try and get the run game going, try and control the game a bit. To me, I just think it's very important that the Bills get off to a quick start in this one, because falling behind against this Broncos defense, giving Bo Nix and this offense any kind of rhythm to get into, if you are able to make life tough early for Bo Nix, like, to me, I guess you could look at it one of two ways. To me, a low-scoring game probably favors Denver, and a shootout probably favors Buffalo. So I think it's important from a Bills standpoint, start fast. You're on the road. You're against a very good defense. Getting behind against that defense and letting Bo Nix get any sort of confidence, because he's been very shaky this season, probably a recipe for failure for them.
Yeah, and this is not going to make any sense, but we always say, hey, continue to do what got you there. And for Buffalo, that is high scoring and taking shots down the field. You don't do that today. I 100% agree with you. You stick with James Cook and you try to chew as much clock up that you can, long extended drives, because one, you don't want Denver to get rolling. And you just want to keep that defense on the field like as much as possible, tire them out for later on in the game. So, I mean, if Buffalo is going to win the game, I think the key 100%, you got to run James Cook. 18, 19, 20 carries. Whatever the case is, don't abandon the run, because eventually he's bound to break one.
Yeah. And when you look at this Broncos defense this season, second-ranked defense total, seventh passing defense, second against the run, and from a point standpoint, they're third. So they have been elite. Point being, you can't have James Cook go out there this week and have 15 carries for 46 yards like he did last week. Start fast, score early, get on top of Denver, take the crowd of the game early. There's always that. It's something different playing in that building. The whole high altitude is a factor, but there is something when playoff football is in Denver. Go back to, it's crazy. They haven't had a home playoff game since 2015. The year that they went on to win the Super Bowl. They, of course, beat the Pats in the AFC title game. There's something about playing in that building that's very difficult and a lot tougher than any other building this time of year. So getting off to a quick start, I think, is key. I also think, too, this is, to me, and this is obvious, but Allen can't turn the ball. Josh Allen has to hold on to the football. He can't turn the ball over. This, to me, is a prime. Like, if Josh Allen, he always has those games where he's just making dumb decisions. This, to me, is one of those games. If you make a couple dumb decisions, it's going to get exposed, if that makes sense.
100%.
Like, we see him a lot of times, sometimes just make stupid throws. Against this defense, those stupid throws are going to turn into mistakes. From Denver's perspective, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are your thoughts on, what is your optimism in Bo Nix, or your level of confidence in Bo Nix? I don't necessarily. Here's the thing with the Denver. I can't sit here and say, maybe only outside of, there's only two other teams left in the AFC. Maybe outside of CJ Stroud, I don't think he can outplay either Josh Allen or Drake May. Where Denver needs to win is defensively, and Bo Nix doing enough. I guess not confidence-wise that he will outplay Josh Allen, but confidence-wise that he'll be able to just do enough if their defense continues to do what they do. Because there has been plenty of games this year where he just doesn't look good. He just looks very average.
I laugh because I've had this conversation at work with some of my friends, and they swear Bo Nix is just. One of them mentioned Bo Nix is the best quarterback in the AFC playoffs right now. Almost,
Interesting.
it was a bad take.
That's
Um, I'm there with you though. I mean, the one thing I can't say about Bo Nix that we kind of seen this year against bad defenses, he shows like, hey, I can get the job done. I can go out there and excel, even
Mhm.
against a very good defense in Green Bay. He went out there and he lit it up. But then you
Yeah.
got times very similar to Josh Allen where Bo Nix holds onto the ball too long. And it's not
Yeah.
necessarily the interceptions and the turnovers, but it's the sacks. It's the, throwing the ball away when you probably can make something happen. I know that kind of contradicts the holding onto the ball too long, but Bo Nix needs to use his athletic ability. And I think if we're being so honest, I think if this game comes down in the hands of Bo Nix game winning drive, I don't think Denver gets the job done. I don't
Yeah.
believe in them. And it's not necessarily a complete shot on Bo Nix, but he showed us this season. You said it perfectly. You can't trust him. And in this case, I don't trust him. But then again, Buffalo's defense is not very good. So if he goes
Right.
out there and they start hot, I think he would do just enough to get the job done, but he's not going to outplay Josh Allen.
And we talk about the ground game for Buffalo. This is also a very big ground game from Denver's
Yeah.
perspective because one of Buffalo's weaknesses defensively is stopping the run. And you want to get this Broncos offense going early on. You want to kind of take some of the pressure off of Bo Nix, get the ground game going a bit.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing, though. He's so unpredictable. And we've
Very.
talked about this all year with Bo Nix, and you just said it there. He's been the one thing he's consistent with is being inconsistent. He had weeks, like you said, against Green Bay, where he goes out there 300 plus yards, 4 touchdowns. He had the big game against Dallas, 4 touchdowns. He goes out against the Colts, even though they lost earlier in the year, threw 3 touchdowns. He had the big game well over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Bengals. Bad defense, but had a big game. There's been a couple times this year where he's thrown for 4 touchdowns, 300 plus yards, limit the turnovers. And then there's games where he's just missed guys. I mean, how many times did he just miss Cortland Sutton across the middle? We've seen that, just overthrows, just bad throws across the middle. And we've seen the completion percentage in a couple of these games has been really, really bad. I mean, go back to that Houston game. He completed under 50% of his passes. That Raiders game on Thursday night, they barely beat the Raiders. He had the 2 interceptions. It was an ugly game. Excuse me, but there's been some good games. There's been some really impressive games. And then there's been some, the 1 touchdown, 2 interception, you win 18-15 against the Texans and those type of games. So my thing with Bo Nix is I don't think no matter how good the defense plays, and maybe I'm wrong, but this feels like a game where you've at least got to go out there and especially if defensive, then that's what makes it so important for the defense to slow down Josh Allen. Because if Josh Allen's at his best in this game and they have no answers, it's tough to count on Bo Nix to go out there and match what Josh Allen's going to do. Ask Bo Nix to go out there and throw for 300 plus yards and 4 touchdowns. So I think the Bills are going to win. I do. And I hate to say that. I hope I'm wrong. To me, this is the Bills' toughest test. No
I
matter
agree.
over whoever they play in New England and Houston. I think this is the toughest test for Buffalo. I could be wrong, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I 100% agree. I just feel they're so outmatched when it comes to the defensive side,
Yeah.
like Denver's defense against their
And
offense.
yeah. And it's the
Yeah.
like the playmakers from Buffalo's standpoint outside of James Cook, they should get swallowed up if Denver's at their best.
Yeah.
You know? And that's my concern with Josh Allen is when he sometimes feels the need to wear the superhero cape, do everything himself. That's where some of these issues come up with him. That's where you see those stupid chest lateral passes. It's like, what the heck are you doing? And we saw that against Tampa, right? Where he had a good game, but he had the 2 interceptions. He had the stupid lateral pass. Like there's moments where he just makes dumb decisions. And against a good defense like Denver on the road, if they fall behind early, I could see him kind of making some of those dumb decisions, and that's where Denver could take advantage. So what are your do you have I think the Bills still win this game. What's your pick?
I'm gonna go with the Bills as well. I think it's gonna be a low scoring affair. 24-21. Give me Buffalo.
Buffalo goes into Denver, gets the win. We'll see how it all plays out. First game today on the slate. Second game on the slate. As we'll kind of move along here. Let's wrap up the show. Seattle, San Francisco. Darnold with the oblique injury. First of all, can we just talk about that? The guy hasn't played. They get the bye week. The guy hasn't played in 2 weeks, and he gets an oblique injury throwing on air. It wasn't even throwing a pass. He was just going through like air reps, and he gets an oblique injury. So Drew Lock got the first team reps Thursday and Friday. The expectation is he will play, but man, if he is 100%, what a tough break for Seattle.
Yeah.
And make a lot. Yeah, last year he crumbled in the playoffs late, or crumbled late in the season, I should say. This year in the game against San Fran, he didn't. So signs point towards a different outcome potentially for Darnold. But just what are your thoughts on the whole Darnold injury? Is he out there the whole game? Is this something that is not as bad, or what are your thoughts on this? Is it something where it's a game where America wants to see Drew Lock?
Well, let me tell you this. Of course, you know what I do for work. I work for the Orlando Magic, and let me tell you, I'm gonna say this: there's
Yeah.
two guys. Actually, every time you turn around, there's two guys that's dealing with an oblique injury. That's Paolo Banchero and that's Franz Wagner. And if we're talking in basketball, I'm just making this relate to it because in basketball, you're not taking hits as much as a quarterback may. I don't think he's going to be able to go. If those guys aren't able to go, taking significantly less amount of hits and all those things, I don't see what will make Sam Darnold be able to go. I don't think he plays today. And if he does, he's definitely not going to be impactful. And he might actually be hurting his team more being on the field than being off of the field. But for Sam Darnold, I get it. It sucks because all calendar year, all you hear about is how bad you are in the playoffs, how bad you are in games that matter. You can't get the job done. So you want to go out there, you want to prove everyone wrong, but you don't want to hurt your team at the
Yeah.
same time. But if I'm Seattle and I'm Drew Lock, see, I don't think they have a chance with Drew Lock
Don't
today.
believe in Drew
If we're
Lock.
being, I don't. If it was Philly again, maybe that was that last year that Philly game or year before where he came in and beat Philly at home, maybe then. But this Niners team is hot. Brock Purdy is hot. I mean, 6-2 against Seattle in his career. He's never lost at Lumen Field. So we're talking about a guy that has so much success playing against Seattle, and you're about to pair Drew Lock up with that. This is a brutal blow for Seattle.
Yeah, it's a massive blow. It's a big drop off. And I was actually trying to find something here. This reminds me a little bit of remember the 2019 wild card when Seattle played the Eagles and I believe Wentz got hurt, and then Josh McCown came in.
Yeah.
Remember that? It was like I think it was Josh McCown's last NFL game. I think he retired after that. That's what this reminds me of. And it's funny that the Seahawks were actually involved in that game. Now, they weren't the ones with the quarterback getting hurt. But point being is that was one of those situations where a backup had to come in a playoff scenario. So that might be what we kind of get tonight. I still think he plays. I don't know if how much it's going to be impacted, whether or not this is something where he's a shell of himself or if he can go out there and kind of manage it and still put together some drives and have some success for this team. Now, from Seattle's perspective, they've continued to be banged up. You talk about Darnold, but San Fran's, or I should say, from San Fran's perspective, they continue to be beat up. Yet they go out there last week, pick up the big win against the Eagles. George Kittle done for the year. How much of the Kittle impact will have in this game without him? And your thoughts on San Fran getting a bounce back win here over Seattle just a couple weeks after getting blown out at home, I should say, or, well, sort of blown out. Not really. I mean, they offensively, they were not very good. What are your thoughts on that?
From this year, we've kind of seen this is where Kyle Shanahan is at his best when he is down some of his best guys. So, I mean, even to make it this far, we've talked about it before. So, won't go back over it too much, but he's done a great job this year leading this unit to where they are right now. And this is where other guys have stepped up. I mean, we've seen a big game from Demarcus Robinson last week. And this is where you're going to need Jawan Jennings to step up, who didn't do too much last year. Your Kyle Hughes checks, those type of guys. So if you think San Fran's gonna go in here and get blowed out tonight, that's absolutely not happening. I mean, you still got Brock Purdy. I know he didn't look too great last week, even though they managed to get the job done. Again, Jawan Jennings is really not a factor in that game, but I think the backups are so good at what they do and they embrace the moment when it's their time to shine. I think they're able to keep this game close. Not saying necessarily they win. That all varies off of how much Sam Darnold plays, if Sam Darnold gets knocked out of the game. But I definitely think it wouldn't be a shock to me. Like, I definitely think they can go in here and get a W today if the surrounding cast steps up and just plays their best.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that they more than capable, and if defensively they do what they were able to do last week, where they had some success against Hurts and the Eagles, a little bit different scenario because Hurts and the Eagles have had their fair share of struggles this year. But I think the biggest thing for Purdy's limited turnovers. I thought the 2 interceptions last week were awful.
Yeah.
Thought they were just bad throws. Purdy's. Here we go again with Purdy because 2 weeks ago when he played the Bears, that was kind of the first time I was like, wow, he's elevating this team around him. And then he didn't play well against Seattle. And then he went out there last week and had the 2 touchdowns. Jawan Jennings had the trick play touchdown to CMC. But the 2 interceptions were awful. So he's got to limit the turnovers. He's got to be a bit more consistent. There's still those moments with Purdy where you just kind of scratching your head. Big game here for CMC. Need a big game, I should say, from CNC. What are your thoughts game pick wise?
Oh, that's put me
This
on the
is tough
spot.
because it's a 7.5 point spread. Seattle is up. Now, I don't know if that'll change, if that continues to change with the Darnold news, or a 7-point spread, I should say. So big spread there.
Oh, that's tough. If I'm a betting man, I'm gonna go 49ers +7. I can't even really gauge who might win this game because again, it all varies on Darnold and how he looks the first few drives. So again, just going back to that oblique injury, it's kind of hard. Like, you don't have torque, you can't really turn your body. There's a lot of factors when you're dealing with an oblique injury, so that's gonna be tough. But I think the Niners definitely cover the spread. As far as win loss, I mean, if Darnold plays, I think Seattle has a shot. If Drew Lock is out there taking snaps to start the game, uh, congratulations, San Fran. You got one more game until you're probably playing a home Super Bowl game.
Yeah. All week I thought the Seahawks would win this game, especially at home. But with the Darnold injury and the way things have gone this week, I think there's a good chance that San Fran's actually able to kind of come out and pull this one out. So I'm actually going to go Niners. I'm going to take the Niners, pick up a win. And yes, 1 game away from the Super Bowl. All right. So since we got to bounce here in a little bit, we can kind of combine these next 2 games or so together here. Texans, Patriots, Rams, Bears. We'll start with Texans, Patriots. Your thoughts on this one? Texans coming off a dominant defensive performance against the Steelers on Monday Night Football. Wasn't a great game from Stroud, and then from a New England standpoint, it was ugly, but they picked up a win, just one touchdown scored on Sunday Night Football. This, to me, screams, and we talked about this off air, low-scoring affair.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very low scoring. I think this favors New England, and there's my pick. I think New England wins. I mean, Stroud is awful. Stroud looked awful, and just all week on Twitter, I keep seeing out of every quarterback that you can pick out, Stroud has more playoff wins than Dak Prescott. CJ Stroud didn't do anything against Houston. I mean, against Pittsburgh, besides stink the place up. It's like him and Rodgers were having a mid off, just trying to out mid each other on the football field. But in this case, I mean, New England's offense didn't look too hot last week either. The defense looked very good, but if it comes down to it, I would trust New England's offense to get the job done more than Houston's offense to get the job done if both of those defenses play how they played last week. Obviously, no Nico Collins either for Houston's week out with a concussion and the run game. You know, they ran the ball very well, if we're being honestly. I don't think they run the ball that well again against New England this week coming up. So give me New England and Drake May. We're talking about an AFC championship here.
Yeah.
So I like the Patriots this week.
Yeah, I agree. I like New England as well. I'm right there with you, CJ Stroud. I'm starting to lose more of my, I guess, confidence in him. I was always a very big CJ Stroud believer, CJ Stroud supporter there for a while. And look, he's got the 3 playoff wins, but I think more of that goes to D'Amico Ryans and this Texans defense
100%.
and what they've been able to do. They completely shut down Rodgers last week, and Stroud early on, he found a little bit of a rhythm as the game went on, but early on he was awful. I think this is a low-scoring game, and as good as Seattle, or I should say Houston's defense has been, I think it favors New England, get points late in this game and find a way to come out on top. So I agree. I think Drake May just slightly outplays Stroud. I just don't believe in Stroud going on the road and outplaying an MVP, even in a low-scoring game. I like New England as well, and they go to the AFC title game, and I really hope. Can I just? Yes, please. I am begging. Just one of the Texans or the Broncos. Just please win. Preferably both. Preferably Broncos Texans AFC title game. Which at that point we might want to rip our eyeballs out if those two teams are in the AFC title game, because you talk about defense. Gosh. Talk about bad quarterback play. We're going to be sitting there watching Bo Nix and CJ Stroud throwing completions for 3 hours. But please, whatever. Just football gods. They've given me nothing, right? Can they at least give the Jet fan not have to go into next weekend with a Bills-Patriots AFC title game at the very least? Is that too hard to ask? Is it too hard to ask for just one? Ideally both, but I know both's, a little greedy. At least one where I can go into next week either rooting for the Texans or the Broncos, not having to sit there and just watch one of the Bills or the Patriots go to the Super Bowl. So
that's brutal.
Yes. So that's all I ask. Hate watch is fully on. Your hate watch worked last week. My hate watch is yet to work. Now, I did want the Eagles to lose, but I just can't stomach a Bills Patriots AFC title game. It's terrible knowing that one of those teams is going to go to the Super Bowl. And if you had to ask me deep down inside who I would want or who I would prefer, I hope both teams lose. That's my answer. That's my answer. Game goes on for too long, and they have to just crown the NFC title winner.
Super Bowl lights go out again. We've seen it before. Lights go out in the stadium, can't get it back
out. Power across the world goes out, and they can't resume the game. And we just move on to 2027. And the 2026 season gets canceled, and the Jets just get Arch Manning. And we call it a day. All right. One more game here. Bears, Rams. This is another really good one. I think if you had to rank them,
It's probably number 2.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. I would go Bills, Bears, Niners,
Yeah.
Texans.
Yeah.
In the terms of the games. Matthew Stafford going on the road in the cold. Matthew Stafford visiting a familiar foe in the Bears from his days with the Lions, NFC North rival there. Man, this is an interesting matchup. This is the toughest match. In my opinion, this is the toughest matchup of the week to pick. Just because of the fact that you have a Bears team that's coming off a really big comeback, looked lifeless for 2.5 quarters, and then, like they've done a lot this year, out of the middle of nowhere, they come out and pick up a big win. And you have a Rams team that has been struggling. They have talk a lot about the hottest team wins this time of year. They have been struggling. They go out there last week. They look like they're going to blow out the Panthers, and Panthers then slowly start to come back, and it becomes a close game. They still pick up a win, but it was an ugly win at that. So you have a struggling Rams team against a Bears team that is coming off a very emotional comeback win. What are your thoughts on this one? This game to me is probably the toughest of the week to pick, just because, and maybe I'm wrong by the toughest of the week, but you have Stafford going on the road in the cold. You have the Rams going on the road in the cold. We talked about this last year with the Rams and the Eagles in the cold and the snow, how that could potentially affect them. I mean, the Rams right now, and we talked about this last week, they're doing things that they haven't done all year. Puka Nacua is dropping passes. Stafford's throwing a lot more interceptions than he was earlier in the season. There was a lot of bad throws to Devontae Adams, just things that you haven't seen, just an offense right now that seems a tick off when all year they were pretty much perfect. So from the Rams perspective, and then also Bears, what are your thoughts on this one?
It will be 11 degrees by the time they kick off tomorrow. I'm just going to throw that out there. And Matt Stafford is 1-9 in what you consider harsh weather. That's cold, it's rain, that's snowing, that's all those things. But he's going to be 2-9 after tomorrow. I think the Rams win this one. Um, for the Bears, I mean, we'll stick with the Rams for now. For the Rams thing of it, you got to get going. You need a hot start. And which is kind of tricky because Chicago, that's what they want. They want to get down 15 and hey, we're going to come back. But from the Rams, you can't be in a situation that you were in last week where, like you mentioned, they're about to run away with this game, and all of a sudden they look they start to look bad. They look horrible. But luckily for Stafford, the Bears defense is not the Panthers defense. It's a solid defense, but it's obviously not that very good stout Panthers defense. But you got to get clicking. I mean, everything that got you here, Puka, Devontae, getting Kyrie more involved, Blake Corum came along later on in the year. Those things you got to roll with. The play action, what they're so good at, which is established by running the ball, stick with it. For
Yep.
Chicago, I still don't trust Caleb Williams. I won't say this every week. I will say this every week until I am old and gray. I don't trust Caleb Williams. I can't trust him as good as he's been. And I said this last week, and I'm going to say it again this week. I don't think playing from behind every single week is a successful recipe to winning in the NFL. Luckily, it's worked out for them because, jokingly we say it. It seems like that's where they want to be, but I
Yeah.
don't think it works out this week against a Sean McVay team and a Rams team who I think this is their get right game. They
Yeah.
figured like, hey, if we don't start hot, we're probably going to lose. So this is a get right for the Rams. And as good as the Bears have been, especially at home. I think they dropped this one. Give me the Rams in actually a high scoring one. Give me the Rams like 34-28.
Yeah, this is tough. I've been kind of going back and forth with this one all week. I've started to really buy more into the Bears, but the way they're winning these games, it's just not quite sustainable.
Yeah.
Maybe the Rams have to kind of use some reverse, play style here and start slow, because when the Bears, and let the Bears get ahead, because the Bears play well when they're behind. But no, in all seriousness, yeah, the Matthew Stafford road games in the cold, right? 1-9, all real stuff. We saw it last year in the snow against the Eagles. How many times we said if that game wasn't in the snow, that the Rams probably go out and win that game? Kind of same story here, right? 11 degrees. I'm gonna go with you though. I am gonna say the Rams win this game. I'm buying more into the Bears, but I have a hard time betting on Caleb Williams over Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Williams and Kyron Williams, and more importantly, Sean McVay, who's been there, done that. As good as Ben Johnson's been, I trust Sean McVay more right now in a high-scoring, tight, contested playoff game late. This isn't Matt LaFleur, who is known for blowing leads. So I'm gonna go with you there. I'm gonna say Rams do win this game, and Stafford, I say, gets his second win, doubles his win total in the cold weather, and that would set up with our two picks: Bills Patriots, which makes me want to vomit, and Niners Rams, which means you'd get two divisional matchups in the title game. Now, I don't know. We'd have to look, and we can wrap up here, but when the last time that happened?
Not sure.
Two
Last year, I know we had
teams facing off in the title games.
Eagles Commanders, which was last year,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
the AFC, I don't think there was.
AFC was what? Chiefs, Bills.
Yeah, Chiefs, Bills. So no,
no.
We would definitely have to look back, but it's probably I can't think of a time where it's happened.
Yeah, because I mean, just think the Chiefs have been in the playoffs now in the AFC title game for what? Last year, the year before that, they were played. The year before that, who'd they play? It was the Ravens. Then the year before that, it was the Bengals. And then the year before that, the Bengals were in the title game, and they beat the Chiefs. Because if you think about it, the Chiefs have been in the title game pretty much every single year, and nobody from the West has been there with them. So you'd have to kind of go back pre-Chiefs because, right, nobody in the West.
Yeah.
No.
And then after that, it seems like, before then, it seems like every year we had.
And like when the Patriots are at their peak, the AFC East was awful. So
it was always Patriots, Colts, Patriots, Steelers.
Yeah, Patriots, Broncos.
Yeah. Ooh, this is.
I'd have to look. That's going to be my thing. I'm going to redo some research here. And I hope we don't get that. I just want to make that clear. I do not want Niners, Rams, fine. I have no issue with that. But please, I can't take Patriots, Bills. No. It's going to happen. I mean, when do Jets fans ever get their way? It never happens.
Probably going to happen.
Probably going to happen. I'm very confident the Patriots are going to be there. Who are you more confident? Patriots win or Bills win? I think Patriots.
The Patriots, 100%.
Yeah. I think I'm more confident the Patriots win than the Bills, but I still think the Bills are going to win. Either way, any closing thoughts? You luckily do not have to worry about. Although, look, the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, so you had I'm at least in a situation where like the Bills still haven't won. Patriots, they haven't won in a while now, but I shouldn't even say that. A while. What am I talking about? God,
it's still kind of a loss.
Rebuild.
And for me, it's still kind of a loss. I mean, I hate the Niners very much too. And then if the Bears get in, now it's, Caleb Williams has gotten some more conference championships than Dak Prescott. And then if the Niners win, it's seeing the Niners win it. So it's a lose-lose either way. I also still hate the Patriots just as much as I hated them with Brady. I just don't show it as much. But
I think most people do hate the Patriots.
Yeah. So it's a lose.
Yeah, it all is. And I've always said that in the playoffs. And this will be my final thing. We can wrap it up. You're not necessarily rooting for a team. You're more so rooting against the team. So 100%. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm rooting for the Broncos today. I'm more so rooting against the Bills. I don't want to see the Bills win. I'm not saying like if the Broncos win this week, and they play the Texans next week, I really don't have a favorite in that matchup. As long as it's not the AFCs. Like I just hope for a good game. I mean, I guess it'd be cool to see. I mean, I'm a big D'Amico Ryans guy, so I guess it'd be cool to see D'Amico Ryans win it. But, I don't know. Either way, but you're more so rooting against the team. I'm not sitting there with a Broncos jersey on today rooting for the Broncos. I'm more so, all right, Bills, let's screw up. All right, so that'll do it. Another episode in the books. Appreciate you all, as always, for tuning in. We'll be back next week for Conference Championship Sunday. But enjoy today, final day of the NFL year with games on Saturday and Sunday. So enjoy it, and we'll talk to you next week.